This is Coach Chris Holtman. You're listening to Drive the Lane podcast.
Hey, they say that they winning, but to me,
Drive the Lane podcast, special double interview feature edition. We talk some football, we talk some basketball, and we have the perfect guests to do both of those with. We talk football with Austin Ward, our partner at Lettermen Row, who is maybe the most knowledgeable Ohio State football analyst you will hear from. We also then talk to Andrew Dakich. He returns. He makes his triumphant return to the Drive the Lane podcast to talk about the potentially soon-to-be ranked number 1 Ohio State Buckeye basketball team. We give you our thoughts on the playoff. We give you our thoughts on the basketball team. And, of course, who else would we be sponsored by and presented by other than High Street Tees? It is holiday season. You should be getting your gifts from High Street Tees, especially if you're passionate, nostalgic, and let's face it, nuts about everything and anything Ohio State. Go to their website, highstreettees.com/DTL. These tees are comfortable tri-blend t-shirts that everyone loves. Legendary joints like Mean Mr. Mustard's, Papa Joe's, Bernie's Bagels, Buckeye Donuts. Check out their Twitter at High Street Tees all month. They're doing different Christmas specials for their different various shirts. But any day you want, use our promo code DTL15 for 15% off your entire purchase for a limited time only from High Street Tees. Check out their holiday gift buckets from Papa Joe's and Mean Mr. Mustard's. You know, if you used to order at Old Swill or some other cheap beer with a stack of cups, this is a nostalgic gift for you. You need it. You need to buy it. Use our promo code DTL15. Let's buckle up and drive the lane.
All right. The second, I think, double dip of the Drive the Lane podcast is here for your ears to enjoy. This was kind of fun. We weren't expecting it to be super, super fun. You know, Dakich, we didn't expect anything out of that, but it was a blast.
Dakich doesn't usually provide any form of entertainment, but this time he did, which is nice. He's helped us out a little bit with the pod. You know, he might be our biggest fan. He kind of fanboyed a little bit.
He gave us some high praise, which was great, which you'll hear coming up. But he also lied, and I can't tell you what the lie is, but he lied about how much he listens to us.
That's true.
And then of course Austin Ward, our family member, he loves the pod too. So Andrew must be doing a pretty good job.
Yeah,
man.
I like Austin Ward. He's a very, very nice guy, but that doesn't his nice guyness doesn't even compare to his incredible analyst skills.
Yeah, he had some great insights, and we're not just gassing it up because he was on our podcast. Like genuinely, like what he had to say, we agreed with. It makes sense, like unbiasedly. When it made us pretty excited for the playoff.
You know, he talks about a story that he's working on. I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but he talks about it. I'm very excited to read that story that he discusses, a Joe Burrow story. You'll hear about it. Before we get to our double dose of interviews, though, Louisville basketball lost tonight. We're recording this on a Tuesday. Louisville basketball lost. And that means that there might be a new number 1 team in the country.
There will be a new number 1 team.
Well, I don't know. Kansas is one loss.
Will that number 1 team be the Buckeyes? That's insane to think about, but it very well could be the Buckeyes. It's just insane. So the Bucks are number 3 with no losses. Kansas is number 2 with 1 loss. There's only 6 unbeaten. Oh, look, we're watching TV. It literally just popped up with how many unbeaten teams are left. Mm-hmm. And there are 6, and the only notable ones are Ohio State, Auburn, Butler, and San Diego State. So, yeah, it's pretty insane that 3 years in and Holtman's got a team that is at least going to be number 2, if not number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
And they play Minnesota, who stinks out loud.
Well, you never want to overlook a team like Minnesota. PJ Fleck, row the boat. But yeah, they should take care of Minnesota.
My parents will be at that game. Not me.
They should take care of Minnesota, no problem. And then they should be the number 1 ranked team in the country.
They should be, but will they be? Who knows? So
LSU has a better.
No. Oh, geez, we're crossing over. But if we're gonna, that's enough of that because it's December and the rankings, they don't matter. It's cool. It's awesome. It's really awesome. It's makes you super happy as a fan. As a player, it's really, really awesome too. But it doesn't matter. What does matter is Ohio State might have gotten screwed by being number 2 in the college football playoff.
I think, you talk a lot about LSU's defense. I think the playoff committee, the ratings, all the experts, they know that the highest generated watching and ratings of a championship football game will be LSU and the winner of that Ohio State-Clemson game versus if it was Clemson-LSU having to play in the first round. So I think that it's not necessarily rigged a little bit, but the nation wants to see
Rick, you're
LSU.
speaking my language
The nation
now.
wants to see LSU in the national championship, but I am on record multiple times now saying I think Oklahoma is going to beat LSU.
For all you listening at home, that means put your mortgage on LSU to win.
Exactly. Fade Zolden. Fade Andrew.
But I've gone on record. I think
We go on record a lot.
I went on record the last podcast saying that I think the college football playoff is rigged because they want Ohio State to play LSU for obvious reasons. I even said that in this interview or in this episode when we talked to Austin Ward about it. I just can't see a world where Ohio State doesn't play LSU. They want the numbers. They want the storylines. That game will be incredible anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to just wait and see what happens. It's crazy that it's a couple weeks from now. It's not fair.
People are pretty split on the Twitter sphere, saying that there's half the people who are saying they wish they had the easier road against Oklahoma, and half the people are saying, well, I want to beat Clemson and I want to beat LSU, that they want to beat both teams and be the outright national champion, which is fair. But I also think if you beat Oklahoma, you're the outright national champion. Lincoln Riley, Jalen Hurts, if you win all your games, you're near the national championship. It doesn't matter who you have to beat. And I think Ryan Day would prefer to play Oklahoma's defense in the first round.
It's not going to validate the championship any less.
Right.
But, I'll go. Let's give our quick predictions for that for now, and then we'll bring them up and see if anything changes in the next couple weeks. But for now, gut predictions for me is LSU beating Oklahoma by 1 billion. I'm going to go 52 to 21 in that game, and then let's go 52 to 28. Okay.
Okay.
52-28. And then gut reaction Ohio State Clemson. I already said it. I said it in the interview, which you guys will hear. Obviously, we keep referring back to the interview, but I'm going to go 38-34 Ohio State over Clemson in one of the greatest games that we've seen in a long time for college football.
Okay, I'm sticking with my bold prediction. I'm going Oklahoma pulls it out 34-31. Okay. 34-31 over LSU. And Ohio State wins, what did you say? 38-34. I think Ohio State wins 35-31. What? That's so different from yours.
It's one less field goal.
Yeah, 35. You're right.
You got no confidence in Blake Hobble?
35-31. They don't need the extra field goal. They win 35-31, and then I think the national championship, Ohio State wins, I don't know, similar score to the
I'm going to go
Wisconsin game, 34-21.
Yeah,
Ohio
I'm
State,
going to say
Oklahoma.
I'll say if Ohio State's playing LSU, it'll be 35-27 Ohio State. I don't even know how you can score 27 points in a football game, but
Yeah, they'll do it. No, you can. 2 field goals after 3 touchdowns.
exactly. Yeah.
2 field goals, 3 touchdowns. So we're on.
Those will probably change.
We both think Ohio State.
I can't believe you think that your score prediction was different than mine when it was literally 1.
2 less field goals.
Yeah, but still 4 points in the 30s.
But I think, LSU is a juggernaut. I just think Oklahoma got embarrassed last year. They got embarrassed the year before when Georgia came back. I think they're due. You don't make the playoff every year and then not. They're due.
I will say that Jalen Hurts might be the best player, like college football player in the.
Yeah.
If you look at their entire body of work, obviously Chase Young is the best player. And we're Ohio State podcast. We love Justin Fields and check it out. Joe Burrow's the best. But what Jalen Hurts has done on 2 different teams is nothing short of incredible. So,
it's crazy that there's 3 transfers starting in the playoff, and 2 of those schools that they Alabama not in, Georgia not in. Those guys made the right decisions. We talked about that. I think we talked about that last episode. But it's such an intriguing playoff. There was no question about who should have been in. It wasn't who's in this year. It was who's won.
yeah.
So I mean, we talk much more about the playoff and we talk much more basketball with our guests, so we won't spend too much time on it. But I really think Oklahoma is just going to be an offense that LSU hasn't seen, and we've seen LSU give up lots of points to bad teams and the good teams with Alabama scoring 1 million on them. So maybe I think Jalen Hurts and Lincoln Riley get lucky.
We shall see.
We shall see.
But if you want to hear way, way more and way in-depth, then stay on the line for a couple minutes, and we'll hit you with this Austin Ward interview that is off the chain.
Yeah, we'll get to the interview right now. But before that, where are you going to watch these games, Joey? Well, you're not going to be in Columbus.
Unfortunately, I won't be in Columbus. But if I was in Columbus, you know where I'd be watching it? Not my favorite number. Threes.
Threes above high, the official game day bar of Drive the Lane. If you are in Columbus for the playoff, you need to go to Threes Above High to watch the game. Joey and I have Threes Above High shirts from High Street Tees.
You know what happens when we wear those shirts, Andrew?
The Buckeyes are undefeated when we wear those shirts, Joseph.
Andrew.
And you know what else?
What else?
You can also watch Browns games at Threes Above High. And you know what else?
You can watch Bears games.
And you know what else? You can watch
Ohio State
basketball games
the best
at Threes
team in the
Above High.
country.
The official game day bar of the Drive the Lane podcast. Coming up next, double interview whammy, Austin Ward, and then Andrew Dakich. Buckle up, Drive the Lane, Threes Above High, High Street Tees. We now welcome on to the Drive the Lane podcast the man, the myth, the legend who covers Ohio State football for Lettermen Row.
Our family member,
our partner, Austin Ward. Austin, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me for this crossover episode. I've been a big fan of what you guys have been doing with Drive the Lane. We're thrilled to have that on Lettermen Row, and I'm really excited to join your program for the first time since I've already had Joey in to come do Buckeye Q with me. This feels about right.
Well, we appreciate it. It's always nice when we can meet some of our fans and talk to some of our fans. So this is great. Let's get right to it. College football playoff. Start off with the first game. Who's winning, LSU or Oklahoma?
Yeah, that's going to be an LSU for me. I thought that this why it was so important for the selection committee to get it right with number one, because there are 3 elite teams in college football this year. And I don't mean that as an offense to Oklahoma, but they are just not on the same level as these other 3 teams. And, I thought I was watching that Big 12 championship game, and Alex Grinch, former Ohio State defensive coordinator, still just has not fixed what's wrong with the Sooners. And they're giving up these big plays. And I was just thinking, man, what would happen if Ryan Day and Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins were playing against this Oklahoma defense? I don't see how they would ever be able to keep the Buckeyes out of the end zone. The same thing's going to be true with Joe Burrow. LSU, their offense has just been really special all year. Joe Burrow's had that incredible, Heisman caliber season that we all know, and I don't think many of us saw him really becoming this special when he was on campus, but he has been, and I think LSU is going to roll through that game and then get to New Orleans, and that sets up that intriguing one that I'm sure we're going to talk about way more here out in the desert.
Yeah, we agree with you that it seems like LSU is a juggernaut when it comes to facing Oklahoma, and I think maybe it'll be a closer game than some people are saying, just because LSU they don't stink on defense, but they can't necessarily stop anyone, it seems like. So it'll be interesting. The first to 100 wins.
Let the record show that I actually have predicted a Ohio State-Oklahoma national championship. Let the record show.
Okay.
Yes.
But let the record also show that I think it's fixed, and Ohio State's going to be playing LSU regardless of how good any of the teams are.
Well, what's interesting about this matchup, and you guys talking about LSU's defense, some of these teams that have scored and put up huge amounts of points and yards on LSU are terrible teams. And I'm thinking about the Ole Miss game, and I think that was right around the time that I wrote a column about how if Justin Fields got to play full games like Joe Burrow got to, that the Heisman race would be over, because Fields would have 65 touchdowns. I mean, he played so sparingly in the second halves of games up until the last 3 weeks. that's not a knock on Burrow, but it is a knock on LSU's defense. So, Jalen Hurts and Lincoln Riley, that's not a combination that you really want to mess with either. Those guys can score, and that could be a really interesting game. I hope it just doesn't force the kickoff back for the nightcap because they score 700 points and they don't want to move the game to ESPN2 or whatever. So that's going to be – there is a possibility that can be pretty fun. I just think that Oklahoma's defense is too much of a liability.
Moving to that's very insightful. Moving to the other game, as you mentioned earlier, the number 1 seed was hoping to avoid Clemson. What do you think the Buckeyes need to do to get the job done? The game has moved from in favor of Ohio State to back to Clemson to even to, I'm sure it'll change 10 times between now and the game. What do you think the Buckeyes need to do?
Yeah, I think this is I think the winner of this game is going to win the national championship. This is the matchup I think that Ohio State has wanted for a long time. The last time that I was out there and covering the college football playoff with the Buckeyes, we all know what happened, and that was against this Clemson team. And it also ushered in the Ryan Day era in a sense, because that shutout game forced Urban Meyer to make some changes to the offense. So you look at this one, Ohio State obviously has to score at a much higher level than the last time they played Clemson. That's obvious, and I think that they will. I think if you put out, this game will really come out down to the improvement of that offense since 16, which I think is already clear and proven, but also how significantly improved the Silver Bullets are from last year now to, the changes that Ryan Day made, bringing in Greg Madison, Jeff Hafley. That secondary that's been banged up the last couple of weeks, Jeff Okudah, Sean Wade, and Damon Arnett have all missed time. And it shows when they've struggled, when Michigan scored some points there with some fancy plays in the passing attack, when Wisconsin made some stuff happen last week in the first half. It's been, in my estimation, because of those injuries in the secondary. Now they've got 3 weeks to get healthy, and they're getting ready to play Trevor Lawrence and another one of the most talented wide receiving corps in the country. So if that's the matchup that I would circle, that's going to make the difference, because Clemson doesn't have the same defensive personnel that they did in 16. J.K. Dobbins is going to run. Justin Fields is going to throw for touchdowns to K.J. Hill and Ben Victor and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. The offensive line is going to continue to get the job done the way they have. Ohio State is going to have to win the game with improved defense, and that's going to start in the secondary for me, because you know what that pass rush is going to do to help them out. But Jeff Okudah needs to make some plays. Damon Arnett needs to get one healthy hand on the football, and then Sean Wade has to continue to show why people think he could be a first-round pick.
Yeah, obviously this game is way more intriguing to any fan who knows college football. But I almost, obviously I don't wish I was an Ohio State fan, but I almost wish I was just a regular fan to watch this game, because I think it is going to be so incredible, one for the ages. It's hard for me to give an opinion of what I think is going to happen, but it's not hard for you because that's your job. What do you think is going to happen?
I think, I was way wrong in 16, because I thought that Ohio State team was, they were a little bit ahead of schedule. They had so many young guys that were playing maybe before they should, because of the defections from the 2015 team. And I thought that Ohio State would win that game and force turnovers from Deshaun Watson, because you look back in that year, he threw 1 or 2 picks in every big game. And I thought, well, Ohio State can do that. And man, that's out of any prediction that I've made covering Ohio State. And sometimes people give me a hard time for this. I've covered Ohio State for 8 years. My record predicting their games is 99-9. What a coincidence that's the record they've had since then. Ohio State goes into every game. I picked them in every game because they're the most talented team. They've always had the best coach. They usually have the best quarterback. Those are the factors that I focus on when I'm going through all this. You'll look across the board, the way they recruit. Well, Clemson is one of the only teams in the country where you look across the board at the matchups and it's even. They're recruiting at the same level. I don't particularly care for Dabo Swinney's personality, but he has proven to be a national championship caliber coach, and he's got a great staff and has been fortunate to keep a lot of them together for a number of years. That's a tremendous program. And the reason, you guys are, talking about just watching this game and hoping that you could be neutral. These are 2 powerhouse programs. This is why the playoff is a great thing. I don't think it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. when you're excluding some conferences, and they're always trying to force 2 SEC teams in. But what do I think is going to happen? I'm going to pick Ohio State to win again. That's my fallback here. I think that the motivation is going to be off the charts because they are so, they're the fifth-year seniors that were part of that game will be able to tell them, the culture shift that happened after that and what Ryan Day's, he wasn't part of that game, but he's going to be mentioning that 31-0. Joey, you've been in locker rooms and know when you have a rematch against teams, how much you guys would talk about that. In the media and in public, you always downplay it. But I'm guessing that in the locker room, that conversation comes up much more frequently. Absolutely. As a motivation. And that's, that's part of the game. I think that will actually help Ohio State in this one. And also I think, Clemson keeps talking about how, or Dabo keeps talking about how they shouldn't drop because they're defending national champions and didn't lose a game and they feel slighted. Well, Ohio State wants a rematch, and they don't think that they should have dropped from number 1 after beating another top 10 opponent 3 straight in the last 3 weeks of the season, beating them by double digits. They've got everything going for them that I think you possibly could. I think they're going to win the game, and the hard part will be trying to figure out by December 28th exactly what score prediction I want to write down because I can't figure that part out yet.
I'm going to go 38-34 if you want to use that.
Ooh, okay. Well, we're all family here, so if I need to give you credit for that, I will.
Beautiful.
Sports is all about the stories, the interesting stories, and I think it's really incredible to see an underdog team like Clemson, who everyone gave no chance. They were preseason number 1, coming off a national championship. It's just it's incredible that they're back in the playoffs. So I think it's great.
Yeah, give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, it's like the Cinderella story to get back into the playoff for Clemson.
Gone through such an arduous journey, beating all of those top 25 teams that were not on their schedule. And Dabo shtick, whatever. It plays well for his audience, and that fan base loves him. But if North Carolina beats them, they're not going to be in the playoff. They don't have any signature win. I know how good they are. I'm not suggesting they shouldn't be in the playoff or anything of that caliber. And conference championships deserve to be rewarded. But man, the ACC is just awful, and that's almost like they've had a bye all the way through. To get to the college football playoff. And this is the other thing that comes up all the time that Joey would hear in the media. It's like, well, if you guys haven't played any close games yet, you haven't been tested, like, how will you respond when you get into it, as if practice isn't hard or you're not coached well. But if there is any value to that, Ohio State's been through the ringer this year, and the last 3 weeks are as tough a stretch as you're ever going to find in college football, especially what they're facing in the playoff now. And Clemson just hasn't done that. And I've seen Ohio State teams like that in 2015, where they were the most talented team in the country and sleptwalked through the whole season. And then boom, once they got punched in the mouth, they didn't respond as quickly as they needed to. I think that'll be an interesting subplot to watch with Clemson, because this team, they've been through battles, but that was a year ago when they were with national champions. They've not faced anything like that against really quality opposition since they almost lost to North Carolina.
Joey and I kind of, for the first time in our lives, are quote-unquote analysts, and, you're not supposed to mix being a fan with analysts, but luckily we are not football analysts like yourself. But I've been able to pull myself away from being a fan a little bit this year, and when I watch Justin Fields, he looks great, and then all of a sudden you get J.T. Barrett flashbacks where if the guy's not wide open, it's almost like he's not getting the throws there. And I think it's been more in Big Ten play. Do you think – but then all of a sudden he shows you a little bit of Dwayne Haskins. Do you think that can be attributed to the injury, to just defenses maybe figuring out him being young? There's just sometimes when I see plays and throws from him that it just is flashbacks to J.T. Barrett.
I think one way I compared Justin Fields before the season even started was that he was a mix of every Ohio State quarterback that I've covered. And what I mean by that is he's big and strong, well built like JT Barrett. And obviously we know what he can do running, but he'll go between the tackles, and he's tough. He's proven that. There's no question about it. He's also, when he's fully healthy, he's got 4.38 40 speed and isn't afraid to drop a spin move. And he looks sometimes like Braxton Miller out there. he is a great passer, but he's not nearly at Dwayne Haskins level with his arm. So he's got a little bit of everybody. He can throw it downfield like Cardale just to complete the circle there. He hasn't made many bad decisions with the football. His only real problem with turnovers has been with fumbles. He had one inexplicable pick against Michigan State, and that's the only one all year. I think the biggest part that maybe you're harping in there on, which is fair at this point, is the number of sacks that he's taken. Wasn't something that JT Barrett did a tremendous amount of, but I think it's because he's unwilling to put his team in harm's way with a turnover. And he has enough faith in two things: that he can extend plays and that he'll be able to get away from pressure and make something magical happen, which he did last week, which I think one of the most overlooked plays that was so important was that throw to Olave to start the third quarter on third down. So he's willing to take some chances that way, to take a sack if he can go for it, try and get something down the field. And the other part is that if it's 2nd and 15 or 3rd and 13, he still thinks that he can get that first down because he's so good, and most times he's been proven right. So I don't think he looks at taking these sacks as a huge problem. And that'll come too with time. He has only started 13 games, and by next year I think you'll see a completely different approach and much more, maturity in handling the football and route progression and reads and all the things that come with time. But, I didn't think that it would be possible for him to as seamlessly replace Dwayne Haskins as he did. I thought the first 7 games, J.K. Dobbins would have to carry the load in the running game and let him grow and learn on the fly. And Justin Fields basically arrived as a Heisman Trophy finalist right off the bat and is still getting better every week. So for me, the only flashbacks I would have for JT Barrett would be the positive variety, where now he's going to go out there and Fields is going to have a chance in 2 years to maybe get up there and match JT's touchdown accounted for record, which is just insane to think about.
In one less year.
In a million less years.
Well, it's a little confusing with the half Cardale, half JT year, but
yeah, it is crazy that he's been so unbelievably good, and we get him back for another year without question. That doesn't really happen. And
except last year with Trevor Lawrence.
Well, yeah.
And this year again with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but that's But it's safe to say that he'll be a Heisman finalist or a Heisman favorite even next year.
Yeah.
We have to tread lightly when we're talking about the Heisman right now, because this will be releasing after the Heisman's already been announced. So first, let's congratulate Joe Burrow on winning. So congrats, Joe Burrow. Buckeye, I knew him when I was a freshman, but it's not a big deal. But if we're looking at it,
he's got a degree, so it counts.
That's exactly. It's pretty cool that there are 3 Buckeyes out of the 4 in the Heisman race, right?
Yep.
Austin, I don't know if you saw this or know this, but did you know that Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, and Joe Burrow were all in the same quarterback room at one time? I don't know if you know that.
It was pretty crazy to cover that amount of talent. And, I mean, when you looked at it, Joe Burrow, was basically fighting for 3rd place in that room, and was generally a lot of people thought of him as 4th. And since we're gonna maneuver this timeline around a little bit, I don't mind revealing one of the stories that I'll be working on, which is, imagine this if Joe Burrow does not break his hand in August training camp of 2017.
Yep.
That changed the course of college football history. A broken hand when he's competing to be the backup quarterback against Dwayne Haskins. I don't have exactly the reaction quite yet from what Joe Burrow will say when I ask him about it in New York, but
humble brag.
But I've just been thinking about that a lot, because a lot of people, when they write this story about Joe Burrow, there's this perception that Ohio State, ran him out, or, was gung-ho about Dwayne and didn't care about Joe, which couldn't be further from the truth. They always saw the talent in this guy, and Urban was not picking one over the other in 17. We kept asking about who was going to be the backup. There wasn't really any uncertainty that JT Barrett was going to continue to be the starter ahead of both of those guys. And some people still get upset about that and wonder why. I mean, look at JT Barrett's track record. I don't need to defend that for him. It's ludicrous to have thought that either one of those two guys was ready to play those games that they had at the start of the 17 season. But anyway, when Joe Burrow gets hurt in that training camp, well, Dwayne Haskins becomes the backup by default. He starts getting these reps in September and October when Joe is not healthy enough to do it. And then you kind of never look back. But Ohio State still gave him a legitimate shot, I thought, to win that job in the spring. And it didn't happen. And, Joe Burrow was not this game-changing, world-beating SEC folk hero that he is now at that point. I thought if Ohio State had picked Joe Burrow, they would have won the Big Ten with him in 2018, just the same way they would have with Dwayne Haskins. Do I think that last year he was good enough to throw for 50 touchdowns the way Dwayne did? Probably didn't think that was possible. And I didn't really think that either one of them were going to be Heisman finalists a year ago. So it's crazy how all of this works out. And you're talking about, having all those 4 and 5 guys together over the last few years. There have been some special quarterback rooms, and the difficulty with that is trying to keep them all because only one of them gets to play.
There's a couple stories that are couple Twitter themes that are going around right now that I would kind of just like to clear the air with and get your thoughts on.
Okay.
The first one is I'm getting a little frustrated with the complaining about J.K. Dobbins not being in New York because do you really expect 3 Ohio State players to be like if Chase Young wasn't invited or Fields wasn't invited, I get it, but to be angry when there's 2 players going and neither of them are really have a chance of winning, to let yourself get angry about J.K. Dobbins not going is pretty frustrating.
If you want to be angry, and honestly, I have got pretty heated in my arguments for this, be upset that he didn't win Big Ten Running Back of the Year, because he got absolutely snubbed for that. He's third on the list for current Ohio State players as Heisman candidates. You don't just get to send everyone to New York. There are 130 teams in college football at this level, and they all have 85 scholarship players. To have 2 of them is, I think it's only happened 5 or 6 times. There's just no need for it to be 3. I bet he finishes in the top 10 in the voting, but they're not bringing the entire top 10 there, and they never do, and they never have. So save some of the outrage. I think that people keep saying he's not going because Ohio State split the vote. Clearly that's not the case, because Justin Fields and Chase Young are both in New York City or went to New York City. I think what hurt him is that there are still a bunch of people that believe Jonathan Taylor is better than J.K. Dobbins when there's no evidence of that whatsoever in my mind. I know that Jonathan Taylor is a great running back, and he had a good half against Ohio State on Saturday night, but Ohio State's played against him multiple times, shut him down and beat his team every single time. And J.K. Dobbins has been on an absolute tear. And when he gets to play a full game, going in, I think he was 29 carries behind Jonathan Taylor. So that's a full game. He was 1 touchdown behind him and about 100 yards behind him. If J.K. Dobbins was going to play full games the same way I talked about Fields earlier, he would have had better numbers than Taylor across the board. So I think the people that were going to vote for one running back, that's where it was split, because J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor were commanding that vote. So that's a very long answer to your question about people being upset about Twitter, but I don't think that there's any reason to be concerned that J.K. Dobbins is not going to New York. And in fact, he's a guy that I ask him this all the time. He has this huge chip on his shoulder. So are you satisfied yet? Do you think people are giving you credit? And he says no. And now you know why. He will care about it, I promise you. And on December 28th, he's going to probably try and prove a point with a bunch of those other star-studded guys on the field that he should have been there. Mm-hmm. But it's understandable why he's not.
I think when you look at J.K. Dobbins and the idea, that he plays more, he not only wins the Big Ten Running Back of the Year, he's probably up for the Heisman as well, just like other Ohio State players. I can't help but think it's similar to my situation at Ohio State when my sophomore year I scored 6 points in the last minute of a game and my points per 40 minutes was at like 72 or something like that.
Yeah.
So if I would have played full games, I would have scored 70 points a game, and I would have won the Naismith Player of the Year.
It's a perfect comparison.
Yeah,
You didn't get the opportunities, and that made it hard for the awards voters.
Yeah, so it's not always the awards voters' fault. That's all I'm saying. Cut them some slack.
The second thing that's been bothering me, and then we want your official playoff prediction, but the second thing that's been bothering me is that Joe Burrow was like the 500th best people under the impression that Joe Burrow is the 5 millionth ranked player in the country, and that everyone said this kid stinks and that Ohio State didn't take a chance on him. They missed their chance. Like you talked about that story you're writing about the hand, but Burrow had 20 offers, okay? It's not that crazy that a kid develops when he gets to a program like Ohio State. I think people are overdoing the disrespect that Joe Burrow got. You know, he wanted to go to Nebraska, and they didn't have any interest in him despite offering him.
Yeah, Scott Frost was like, yeah, you know, who would he take the place of here? We got some great guys.
Right. Which I understand if your dream school isn't offering you, it may make you a little angrier. But if you have 20 offers, you're highly recruited, you're the 24th best quarterback in the country. I think people are overdoing the lack of respect that Joe Burrow's gotten in his career when, like you said, if he doesn't hurt that hand, he's starting last year and potentially having the same season he had this year last year.
Well, and along those lines, you have these, you know, national writers parachute again to Athens and, you know, painting this like he's a completely off the radar, the small town in Ohio, and no one had ever heard of him, and it's the legacy of Joe Burrow. Like, it's the exploits. There's so many stories from Ohio State media members that have covered Joe Burrow dating back to high school or know his dad who from coaching in the coaching profession with the Bobcats there in Athens. I mean, he is a very, very famous Ohio quarterback. Yeah. People talk about the performance, you know, his senior championship game or whatever it was. He's throwing for like 600 yards and 7 touchdowns in this crazy shootout. People have been talking about him in Ohio for years and knew the potential he had. And then he spent 3 years on the roster.
Right.
There's this other part of it too that's like, you know, I saw this with LSU people because the mentions just flood whenever you talk about him in his Ohio State career. It's like, oh, remember that? You know, LSU can't recruit quarterbacks. I'm like, well, you didn't recruit Joe Burrow, and he developed at Ohio State for 3 years. Like, he wasn't even fully formed in that first year with the Tigers. He needed a new, you know, passing game coordinator. The Broyles Award winner comes in and suddenly unlocks all this potential for him. And I mean, that stuff's not new to anyone. Everybody has seen that Joe Burrow could have done this stuff for Ohio State, and I said that he would have won the Big Ten last year, I think, if he'd been part of that team and surrounded by all that talent. You're right. I mean, it's infuriating to hear some of this stuff, like he just showed up and LSU found this country boy on the side of the road. You know, he was only throwing rocks through tires, and they put a football in his head and said, "Try this, son." That's just not the origin story. That's reality, and it's infuriating to hear it.
Right. If you look on Twitter right now, Joe Burrow was sleeping in the streets, and someone saw him throw a football over a freeway, and J.K. Dobbins is the most disrespected player in college football history, and not only should he win the Heisman this year, but he should make the NFL Hall of Fame after this season because of what he would have done in the fourth quarter against Michigan State.
I mean, how many bad players does Ohio State sign at any position, let alone quarterback?
Right.
I mean, give me a break. You know, Joey's talking about that quarterback room in 2016 and 2015 and 2016 and all those guys that were in it. Like, show me the 2-star gym that Ohio State unearthed. They don't look for quarterbacks, as you said, on the side of the road throwing footballs over the freeway. They recruit the best players in the country. That's what Joe Burrow was. That's just a fact. I don't know any other way to say it.
My favorite thing is when my mom loves to mention that Joe Burrow is an Ohio State She always goes like, we root for Joe Burrow because he was yada yada yada. He's an Ohio person, and people will be like, well, why didn't you guys recruit him? And then my mom loves going, well, he was actually a Buckeye for 3 years, and no one knows that. So it is insane.
Remember when Colin Cowherd early in the year asked Urban Meyer on his show,
why didn't you recruit?
Do you know Joe Burrow? Hell yeah.
Yeah, very well. Oh man, it's so funny.
Right. We're talking about these idiots on Twitter, and then Colin Cowherd is doing the same thing. Like I joke about, or it's actually ironic because I texted my friend earlier and I said, bet on Maryland tonight. Lamar Peters isn't as good as he's been, and I meant Lamar Stevens. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Peters is a guy from Mississippi State from like 2 years ago. It's just like you can't get mad. Like I'm doing right now, I'm getting mad at these other people, but then I'm turning around and doing the same thing. So I'm giving Colin Cowherd a little bit of a break because
that's not even the same. That's
I'm giving Colin Cowherd a little bit of a break though.
Oh, jeez.
It's my job. This is our job, Joey.
You're just going soft because now you're in running your own podcasts and part of the media establishment, and what you're trying to look out for all the other buddies. If you make a mistake like asking Urban Meyer if he knows Joe Burrow, you need to pay the price for that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Agreed.
It's like asking Dan Dakich if he thinks he should pay players.
Yeah, Joey had a little hiccup with Dan Dakich.
That was my welcome to the media moment when I misquoted Dan Dakich was something which me and Dakich are close, but it was I knew he was gonna berate me at some point in the interview. I just didn't think it would be that early, and it was pretty funny. But
I was just glad that you guys had some, this isn't just going to be some feel good podcast. We got some controversy coming right out of the gate.
Exactly.
To drive the lane on Lettermen Row.
Exactly.
All right, man, this has been awesome. Before we let you go, who wins the playoff games? Who's winning the national championship? What's the score?
LSU is going to beat Oklahoma, I think somewhere 49-34. I do think it's going to be crazy. They're going to score, just not. I think Oklahoma can put up points against LSU, just not. They will not be able to get enough stops. I don't know. I guess I'll just use the suggested score of 38-34 in the desert. I haven't decided exactly what way I'm going to go. I do believe that Ohio State is going to win that game, and I think New Orleans is going to be absolutely bonkers. LSU thinks they're going to have the dominant home field advantage inside the dome, and they probably will. But if there's anyone that can go toe to toe with them buying tickets and traveling down there, you guys are well aware what fan base can do that. Outside the stadium, it's going to be 80-90% LSU fans in purple and gold, but inside I think that Ohio State can neutralize that just a little bit for a title game. And if they're going for that one and they've beaten Clemson, this would be the crazy storyline for that game. Obviously you have Joe Burrow and that the chance to face him and all the stuff that we've already talked about with his career. But if Ohio State finishes the year beating 3 straight top 13 teams to close out Big Ten play, top 10 Penn State, on the road in the rivalry, rematch against Wisconsin, then beat the defending national champions and number 3 unbeaten Clemson in that 28-game winning streak, and then beat the Heisman winner in New Orleans with a partisan crowd and everything else going on. There is a case here that Ohio State could be the greatest college football team of all time. Those are the stakes for them. Going for a national title, of course, but that resume might be one that you look at and say that stacks up better than anything any team has ever done.
What an ending!
And that's I mean, I've been saying this all year that 14 run was special, 15 team was the most talented that I'd ever covered. This team has the same special vibe as 14, and I think that there's going to be more draft picks. There might not be the same number of top first-round picks, although it's going to be close. This Ohio State team, I've never seen anything like it. Urban Meyer handed off a juggernaut. Ryan Day knows and has known exactly what to do with it. I think if they get past Clemson, LSU's defense will be no problem for Ryan Day, and they will. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Buckeyes, proving that they should have been number 1, and that they'll get these 2 wins, and then we're trying to figure out exactly where how much money it's going to keep Ryan Day to keep him in Columbus forever.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next time we'll talk about my theory that Urban should go to the Redskins after they draft Chase Young. But that's opening up a whole new can of worms.
Oh my gosh.
Next time.
All right. Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Appreciate what you guys are doing for us.
Absolutely.
Of course. Thank you. See ya.
All right, what an incredible interview with Austin Ward, and now we move on to an interview with Andrew Dakich, who is worse on offense than I am.
All right, welcoming back onto the Drive the Lane podcast, Andrew Dakich.
Notice how he didn't say a very special guest.
A very special guest. A very special guest. Dakich, the Bucks are hot. Your suit game is hot. What's working with this team right now?
Man, a little bit of everything. I think I've told Joey this before. I've never seen a more connected team in my 20 years of college basketball. It starts off with CJ Walker and Caleb Weston. I mean, they just have the entire team, and DJ Carton's following suit, EJ Liddell's following suit. It's just everyone's connected, and everyone is just trusting and showing an incredible work ethic on a daily basis. We don't play until Sunday, and everyone, like, as a player, you want to play those games, but there's some time off, but they're still hungry each and every day with Quadrian Banks in the weight room and Coach Holman on the court. So it's a pleasing thing to be around, and I'm excited to keep going with this team because it's been fun so far.
Doc, one thing that we've kind of talked about, obviously not on the air, is how fast the Holman era has gotten off to the fast start that it's gotten off to, basically.
Yeah.
Whether it was us, my junior year, your 8th year of college, being ranked as high as 8th in the country. Now the team is up to number 3 and rising, most likely. I know I didn't really see it. Did you see this insane rise of Ohio State basketball so quickly?
No, I didn't. I didn't see it my first year to get to 8th. Obviously, I mean, we struggled in the beginning. I think we were like 4-3, and we lost to, we lost to a Clemson team that eventually ended up being pretty good. But no, I didn't see this rise 2 years ago for sure. I mean, it just speaks, to our coaches, to, the players buying in, to Q, to everyone just having a little chunk of this pie. It's been pleasing to see, and now I'm not surprised to see like the guys we have. It's just they trust Coach Holman so much. They have so much the utmost respect for him. Obviously, they get better because they play for him, but some players play for other reasons. These guys play for Ohio State, and they play the right way, and they're and the scores are speaking for themselves, considering we're 9 games into this.
So we're recording this, and Louisville literally lost like 10 minutes ago as the number 1 team in the country. You want to make the first case for Ohio State to be the number 1 team in all the land?
No, you don't win championships in December.
Oh, geez, Coach Dakich, here he is.
Hey,
welcome to the show.
You don't win championships in December. Come on, we know that.
You're right.
This doesn't mean anything. So, if we keep doing what we're doing on a daily basis, taking care of our body. I'm going to give you the political answer because that's really how
welcome to the show, a very special guest, Coach Andrew Dakich. We've got our first fraud alert of the season in Big Ten basketball.
Who's that?
Maryland is a fraud. Maryland is a straight up
Maryland
fraud
just lost to Penn State
team.
also.
They are committing fraud.
I don't know about that.
I'm not going to say. I mean, we play College Park here early in January, so I'm not going to say anything until we play them. But they're uber talented, man. I mean, dude, Joey, Penn State is going to be good this year.
Of course.
Lamar Stevens is a baller. Like Watkins, he has his issues, but like the guy had like 15 points and 4 blocks today. I mean, he's a really good player. I mean, they got some guys, and they're always tough, and they bring this gritty mindset to every game. So I'm not surprised that Penn State beat them whatsoever. That was a tough game for Maryland.
To the casual basketball fan, they just see Ohio State. They just see the score and us winning by 100 or whatever against Penn State at home. First of all, we've had our fair share of struggles to beat Penn State, so that was fun to see. Sure. But also, their best player and one of the best players in the conference, a top at least 5, if not like top 3 guy in the conference, fouled out with 12 minutes left. I mean, like they had
only down 10.
Yeah, exactly. They had no way they were going to be in that game. So it's not fair to even – I mean, yeah, it counts as a win, but Penn State can't be judged on that one game. I mean, and Maryland.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Maryland's
for
not a
sure.
fraud.
And-
So
and
I'm putting my fraud stamp on them because of this loss and because of the lucky win against Illinois.
it wasn't a lucky win. Illinois.
If Ohio State goes
But
in,
Illinois is good. Illinois is good.
They
this
are
year.
good.
I know you two, Chicago boys. The Illinois is good this year. They're going to be a tough.
No, the
matchup
Big
for
Ten
any
is
opponent
the
this
Big
year,
Ten
for
is
sure.
deep, and I know you're going to give. I know you can't give real deal answers, and I get that. I just think that if you look at Maryland versus Illinois, Maryland has in the past couple of years they've been good. They've never been outstanding, but they've always found a way to win those games against the bad teams, the average teams, and sometimes even the really good teams. They always seem to find a way to win. Whereas Illinois always finds a way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When we played in the UC and I played in the game and we still won.
First half.
You know what I mean? Just games like that where they shouldn't they probably shouldn't win, but they're winning the entire game. It's just weird.
I do think. Yeah, last year I think you can put an asterisk next to it just because you had young players. You had Io and Georgie as freshmen, and Georgie wasn't Georgie until the second time we played him.
Georgie's
right?
so good. He's so good.
And they had that Cockburn freshman. They have pieces.
Coburn.
Yeah, we call him the.
Coburn. I'm sorry.
We call him the big STD.
We call him the walking STD.
The walking STD.
That's just okay. But I think they're going to be good this year. I think we've been saying this for years, and everyone
That's what I'm saying, Doc. We say it every year.
Bottom, yeah, it's every year. It's every year, and I think this is another year. 20 games is. It's tough. It's tough. We had that January stretch where we lost 5 in a row, and Coach Holman, it reminds him of this kind of stuff. Hey, listen, this can go south real quick. Joey, think about us playing Michigan State last year. We're top. I think we were 16 or 14th, one or the other. Go playing Michigan State at home that first game but
winning at 7 at halftime. Yep, and then we lost 5 in a row. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So this can go south. And that's what, I keep saying, and Coach Holman keeps alluding to it, it's great that we're top 5 in the country right now and could possibly be number 1 by next week. But, it does not matter unless you show for it in conference play in the months of January and February. So
the tradition of saying that Illinois is going to figure it out and get it together this year is getting dangerously similar to predicting Michigan to win the Big Ten in football every year. It's going to keep happening every year, and guess what? It's not going to happen every year.
I don't know about that. That's not fair.
I don't know about that with Illinois.
Yeah, that's because Illinois.
When was the last time Illinois?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Illinois is, and you're going to agree with me, Doc. We're not talking about Illinois being a contender to win the Big Ten, just to make the tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't know if I see what you're saying. Just things that we say are going to happen that haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
But
fair.
But Michigan, it's been 9 years, and Illinois, it's been 1.5. So, but
I will get
I've been saying the Michigan thing for a while. I'm not gonna lie.
If Maryland, I'm gonna mix it up with a couple teams. If Maryland wins the Big Ten, because I'm stamping them as frauds. If Maryland wins the Big Ten, I'll get a Kofi Cockburn tattoo on my shoulder.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is going off the rails very quick. All right, Doc. Walk me through what a typical practice right now for Ohio State looks like. Let's say it's a 2-day prep. For those who don't know, the schedule, the way the college basketball schedule works out is usually you'll play a game on Tuesday, then you maybe if you're lucky you have an off day, but then you have 2 days of prep before your next game, which would be in that case on a Friday.
Right.
What does that look like? Because in the past, Holtman the teams haven't been nearly as good, and there needs to be maybe more work individually and stuff like that. But obviously, they're clicking on all cylinders. Have you seen a difference in the past 2 years with the preparation this year with this team?
No, not at all. If anything, I think we're even more prepared. I would almost say we're over prepared in a lot of ways. And it's credit to our players. I'm telling you, man. I always say this about Caleb West. I'll get back to you, but I want to go off Caleb West and
Oh, please.
We're up 30 against Stetson. Was that the game you were at? Or no?
No, but we're Stetson podcast. Poor Stetson.
We're up 30 against Stetson in the second half, and Caleb's sitting on the bench next to me, and he's screaming out Stetson's plays with like 2 minutes left for Alonzo Gaffney to get through a screen or switch a ball screen or something like that. Like, that's the kind of kids we have. That's the kind of character we have on our team. In terms of, like, they call out other plays. We're up 30. Like, why don't you chill and relax and joke around with your teammate? You know what I mean?
Right, totally.
Like that stuff, like, Caleb is taking that. I think he sheds a 180, man, in terms of his preparation, obviously his body, but just his overall leadership abilities and just being locked in to every team, no matter if you're playing Stetson or Villanova or whoever. And, it's a credit to the coaching staff. Coach Terry Johnson does an unbelievable job getting us prepared. And, you were obviously on the scout team. You run 10 to 12 plays against the top 8 players. So, they prepare. And if you guys, let's say he hits a 3 from a pin down, who was on the scout team last year that you get a pin down from? Jadon Ledee. We go over that. We walk through it so it doesn't happen in an actual game. That's just always how they, prepared each and every game. And it's a credit to Coach Terry Johnson, Coach Peden, obviously, on the offense, Jake with personnel, and obviously Holtman just managing the entire thing. So nothing has changed, to answer your question. We still do the 3-on-3 energizing. We still do Jared closeouts, halo passing. Like, nothing has changed whatsoever. It's just the character, the leadership of our team on a daily basis. We have everyday guys. They're always not trying to clock out. So.
Yeah, I love that. I noticed that when you were mentioning all the coaches just now, you skipped out on Nettie. Is there something Nettie's not doing right now?
No, Nettie is one of the hardest working guys. I just got hit. No, he does both ends of the ball, both offense and defense, and he is an indispensable piece to our coaching staff for sure. He does an incredible job helping prepare late game situations with Coach Holtman, and obviously having a say on the offense and defensive side with Terry and Peta for sure.
Shout out to Nettie.
I should not.
Don't you dare forget Nettie.
No, and I should shout out Kyle. I mean, Kyle Davis does clips up the video for good personnel, and Robbie obviously is the Mr. Do-It-All, Mr. Versatile. Clips up things for Coach Holtman and other guys. So everyone. I fall in there.
No, and they're not you.
Quadrian Banks.
Well, you already talked about him.
I talked about Coach Holtman.
Dude,
Debbie.
Well, Debbie's
Eagle.
great.
Oh yeah, Eagle.
Eagle and TD.
TD, yeah.
and T Hicks.
And our manager.
Okay, all right, yeah.
That's what you need. You need a manager on this podcast.
Trust me. We will. That's
okay.
Dakich, what do you do in practice?
I usually just talk to the guys on the sideline. So during NCAA rulings, I'm not even allowed to touch a basketball, like physically touch a basketball while practice is going on. So it's either jotting down stats or kind of just, observing more than anything. There's not much I can do, which is, we already have so many managers and so many coaches. I just try to observe, learn, and, wherever I can say my piece, I will. But I'm not doing a whole lot of coaching or playing or teaching, that's for sure.
How's your knee feeling?
It's better. I'm actually down 8 pounds, believe it or not.
Whoa!
And
breaking news: Andrew Dakich is not eating bread. Right? No carbs.
No carbs. Q, I think you already know this, Joey. Like, Q deserves a lot of credit with our team. Like, the way he prepares every single day. He's so thorough in what he does for every single player. It doesn't matter if you're starting or you're the 15th man on the roster. It does not matter. He's the same guy every single day and helps out with even me.
I was going to say even you.
Even I'm just some slap that is just trying to stay somewhat healthy and somewhat in shape. He has a plan for me too, so I'm very grateful for him.
So, when this comes out, it'll be about a week and a half past it actually happening. And you're never supposed to hold on to a win or one game for too long. But I want to get your thoughts on UNC and the atmosphere and what that game was like from your perspective.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was my first time in the Dean Dome for a game, and you know, it was, you know, Cole Anthony, top 5 draft pick probably this upcoming year. Sea of blue, I think that's such a beautiful color.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Blue.
Such a good
Joe,
color.
you were there. It was unbelievable. What was crazy is like we weathered every storm. Like every time they made somewhat of a comeback, like it was on. And then obviously the second half, we just kind of took over. But it was really cool. I mean, Roy Williams' court is right there. I didn't know they did that back like a year ago, I believe. It was an unbelievable atmosphere for sure, but we quieted them for probably 30 to 35 minutes of the entire game, which was really cool. But, you know, as a fan of basketball, you kind of want to see that place get rocking a little bit. But as a coach, you just want to silence that crowd as much as possible for sure.
Doc, I know you listened to our interview with Coach Holden. We talked about who was a better offensive player, you or me. I want your input on a different question, different way to phrase the same question. Who would have helped North Carolina more in that game, me or you?
You would have.
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
I'll give you that. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you that, but since this is your show, it would be nice that you would have helped.
No,
North
Carolina has no shot making. It's unbelievable, right? I mean, if we're going to look at a different team, I know you can't be super critical of them, but in that game, they didn't shoot. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was.
Yeah,
we were making shots they weren't.
That could be a challenge. Yeah, for sure. That could be that could be a challenge for them.
Yeah.
For the entire year. I hope they get it rolling so it helps our
RPI or what is it now? Net.
You know who quiz?
The net ranking.
Pop quiz for Zolden Dakich. You can't answer. Who was the first ever number 1 team in the net rankings?
Ohio State.
Yeah. That was so funny.
Good. Gosh, I forgot about that.
Oh,
wait, was that in January or February?
Yeah, it was like January of No. It was my
December.
senior year. And it was right after. Yeah, it was right after we were like 8-1 or 9-1 when it came out, and our only loss was Syracuse, and we had beaten Creighton and Cincinnati on the road. Oh shoot!
The net rank. I forgot about that. Now we use that. Yeah, them and Ken Palm for sure.
God, how great is that?
We're number 1 in Ken Palm right now. We've definitely taken a screenshot of that because that's something our coaches use on a daily basis, and to see your team overall number 1 is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I remember Holtman saying my senior year in a meeting when things were kind of going south. He was like, "Look, if we want to make the NCAA tournament, we have to be a top 20 team in KenPom for defense and offense, not like in the rankings, but like we have to." And I think we actually ended up doing that somehow. We probably didn't get an offense, but like the KenPom rankings matter. Yeah, last year we were so bad on offense.
Yeah, it was not offense, barely defense, I believe. I can't tell you, but your junior year we were top 20 in both.
Right, and that's for those of you who are looking at NCAA tournament teams and looking at your bracket early. The teams that are in the top 20 in both doesn't matter beyond ranking wise. Those are the teams that are going to get in and they're going to do well. So. But yeah, we don't care about that. It's it's December, as you said, Coach Dakich. We don't win championships in December.
Speaking
I hope
you go, Doc.
No, you hang up first.
No, it's just a redundant thing. I hope we can have this conversation late January, late February, and even late March.
Yeah, we'll just have you on in the middle of January, then the middle of February, then the middle of March.
We'll have you on semi-annually, twice or bi-monthly.
Am I the first reoccurring guest?
Yeah, congratulations. We're sending you a shirt, actually.
Nope. We called Brunson that one time.
Oh, we did call Jalen one time. Oh, shoot. Sorry.
Wait, you called him one time? Like, did you record and put it out there?
Yeah. He has been on 2 episodes.
He's been on 2 episodes, but he wasn't a guest on one of them.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I do his Navy player and in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I can't argue with that.
Bad Fortnite player.
Dakich, what's the team going to do for the playoff game?
We actually traveled to Cleveland that night. We play West Virginia on the 29th, so I believe we'll probably watch it.
Oh, geez, that means we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Because same thing
Why?
happened to me last time we were in the college football playoff.
You were a sophomore.
I was a sophomore. We were traveling to Illinois. We played Clemson. We sat in the hotel and watched the game together, and then they lost, and then we lost to Illinois, just so you know.
Well, that's Illinois for you.
It all comes back to Illinois.
That was with Illinois when Tracy Abrams was in his like 9th year, like you. Like that was when Tracy Abrams.
I think he actually got a legitimate 6th year.
Yeah,
I think he did. Didn't he?
Yeah. Shout out to Tracy Williams, the black version of Andrew Dakich.
Yeah, he's a little better, but I appreciate that.
Dakich, any stories within the program that you can leak to us? Any news?
I don't know. I don't think so. No,
wait. Do you want? How about this, Doc? You want to thank me for being the host for all the kids that are on the team, underclassmen right now? Literally all of them. Do you want to thank me for being the host because you're about to be the number 1 team in the country?
You definitely do deserve a shout out. I do recall you having DJ Carton over at your place playing video games and giving them a 20 to 30 minute spiel on why you should come to Ohio State. I don't think any other team. I think it was between us, Michigan, Indiana. I don't think any other player on either one of those teams was doing that. So I will definitely give you credit for DJ Carton.
Hey, thanks.
That's the one I know for sure of. I don't know about EJ Liddell. Were you his host then?
I was.
Were you really?
Yeah, I actually have a message from him still that says best visit ever. Something to hang my hat on.
You definitely do deserve some praise for that because you were unbelievable. Both my tenures at Michigan and Ohio State, I genuinely do mean this. You were the best to come by with that stuff.
Oh,
you were
man.
unbelievable.
Oh, so I think what we can safely say is that the success of Ohio State this season can be attributed to Joey Lane, even though he's no longer on the team. Because
let's not go that far.
Summer's going to come around, or winter's going to come around and ask what you did in the summer, and in this case, the season's going to come around and say who recruited you and were you hanging with under a visit.
Doc, all I want to know is yes or no. Can I be on your float when we win the national championship?
You're in.
All right, cool.
You're in.
Perfect.
Will you have a cigar? I don't know. Like, will you pop champagne? Okay.
Shit. Doesn't matter for me.
Well, you're part of it.
Yeah.
The real question is if no, I'm not going to get into it.
You're right. Put your coach's hat back on.
Coach Dakich, it's December.
Yeah, well, you don't win championships in December.
We should not be talking about.
Failed.
Yeah. Holtman's. We can cut that out, or Holtman's going to fire you.
Please cut that out. Just disregard anything I was about to say or what you guys were thinking I was going to say.
We're definitely going to cut it out and not use it as a promo for.
What?
The real question is, when are you guys coming back?
I will be back end of January for the captain's dinner. Remember, I was a captain. Yeah,
yeah, you were.
Yeah,
I'll be back then too because I'm the captain of this podcast.
Should I bring him as my +1 for the captain's dinner?
Oh my god, that would be fun.
That'd be amazing. I mean, your mom's definitely gonna want to go.
I know, but Hannah will be in school, so I'll probably take Hannah. But
that's nice.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Well, maybe I'll come and hang with my family. Do we know any captains that don't have someone to bring?
Don't think so.
Know,
maybe Greg Oden will bring me.
Greg Oden wasn't a captain.
No. Greg Oden wasn't a captain.
We told Oden that if his wife can't go to the ESPYs, I'm available.
And what was his response to that?
No.
He said, "Okay, next topic."
All right, Doc. Before we let you go, do you have any questions for us before we get completely off the rocker?
I don't. Should I?
No, you shouldn't. That's fine. It's just like in a job interview when they say, "All right, do you have any questions?" and you.
No, but I am impressed. I told you this off the air that you guys are rolling, man. It's really cool to hear the insights of obviously Thad, Coach Holtman, Jalen, Coach. Who am I missing?
No more coaches.
Gio, no more Titus,
Gio, Holtman. Thad, Jalen, all those guys. I know I repeated it, but it's really cool to see you guys. It seems like you guys are having a lot of fun and having more success. I've heard more advertisements from you guys, so keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. Keep your schedule open the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and we'll and keep your couch open too for when we come back to Columbus
for the captain's weekend.
Thanks, buddy. All right,
you better come, man.
Oh, well, I can just come and hang out with you.
Yeah. Even though Doc will be at the dinner.
Well,
Doc, can we sit at the table together, Doc? Can we sit at the same table?
Yes, we can.
Let's
but
go.
You might have to sit at another captain. I wasn't a captain though, Smoke. Maybe all the captains sit together.
No, you know how it
they
works.
Don't. They
You know how it
spread
works.
out. Yeah, they spread out.
Dakich, do you get a plus one?
I don't think so.
Well, if you do.
Zolan, listen, we can sneak you in, dude. It's not high tight security. Like, there is plenty of food and there are plenty of seats left over. You can have a seat at the table.
All right, we are definitely recording that and saving that, and I'm just gonna walk up to security, and they're gonna be like, "Do you have a ticket or do you have a pass?"
There's no security.
And I'm gonna play.
No security.
All right, I'm coming. I'll be there. End of January.
All right, Doc, we love you. Whatever you're doing to make the team do so well, keep doing it, okay?
I appreciate it. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, buddy.
All right, go Bucks. We hope you enjoyed those interviews and the whole episode. We'll have much more for you on the playoff coming up next week. We'll have more on Ohio State basketball coming up next week. As always, we'll have some exciting guests. Holiday gifts, go to High Street Tees.
All 3 of our fantasy football teams are made it to the next
still in the
round
playoffs.
of the playoffs.
HighStreetTees.com/DTL, promo code DTL15. Watch all the Buckeye games at 3s above high. And if you're driving, make sure to buckle up and drive the lane. Joey, any last words? Or
God,
not last words, final thoughts?
It is such a great time to be a Buckeye. That's my last thoughts. We're going to give you a live reaction of never mind, they called the timeout. I was going to give you a live reaction of Butler versus Baylor, but there's 8 seconds left and they called timeout. It is always a great day to be a Buckeye, but right now, soak it all in, because between wrestling, women's basketball, because they just beat the number 2 team, obviously men's basketball, obviously men's football, even hockey, men's hockey, even women's hockey.
Women's hockey.
It's a great time to be a Buckeye, so soak it all in. Go Bucks, buckle up, drive the lane.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.